All right, welcome to the Young Turks Thanksgiving special / spectacular.
Ooh.
Okay, what are we doing here, Ana?
Well, we wanted to make sure that we had some programming for you guys while we are on break, as most people are for Thanksgiving. But we also wanted to use this as an opportunity to thank our viewers. Since it is Thanksgiving, we're super thankful for you guys because you give us the opportunity to do what we love. You give us the opportunity to call out politicians and their hypocrisy, the media and their hypocrisy. And so we're so grateful for you.
And we're gonna show you some of those clips throughout this show where we call that out. But you know me, I'm the corniest man in America. So
Yes.
I'm so thankful for you guys. You've made everything possible. We're absolutely nothing without you. So I love you for it. Now the first clip is going to be Ana on Chris Cuomo's show. She debated a Republican who she thought looked like a thumb with a face on it. Let's watch.
Ana Kasparian was on Chris Cuomo last night, and she took issue with some of the way another guest on the show was presenting the impeachment inquiry, some of the right-wing talking points that he was spreading. Here's how she responded to that.
If I were the Democrats, I would want this to be held open and very fair, very transparent, because they've got a lot of convincing to do.
I am so tired of Democrats constantly caving to the type of framing that Republicans demand. Finally, for the first time, you have Democrats standing their ground. They have absolutely no obligation to hold that vote. I believe that the way that they're conducting this investigation is not only legal, it's the correct way to do it. And the reason why they're not holding open hearings is, number one, in 2015, John Boehner pushed for and successfully accomplished a law that indicated that they could do these closed hearings.
True.
And more importantly,
Chris.
we don't need a circus right now. What we need is to get down to the facts and figure out exactly what's going on.
There's
a lot of good moments in that.
Yeah, my two favorite parts were Cuomo go, true.
It's the opposite Trump. What does Trump do? Fake, lies. What was the one?
He would lean in
wrong.
wrong. That's what it was during the debates.
Wrong, true.
Wrong. Wrong.
No, Ana, you're the puppet.
Okay, so my second favorite part was when she popped that guy's knee out. Like, bam, like, oh god damn, yeah, man. And when she's like, waiter, receipts please.
Well, and also one of the points that he makes, this is a general thing whenever you watch interviews like this, when he's like, if I were the Democrats, I would just discount everything that comes after that, because the last thing he wants to do is give the Democrats advice. Meghan McCain always tries to play that, like, I think what they should do is this. They should jump through these hoops that I will lay out. I will never support them even if they did that, but it would be convenient for me as a right winger if they were to do what I say.
My favorite is when they give us electoral strategy. I think you should pick the weakest Democrat, the one that no one really likes and is polling at 2%.
Yeah.
That's why Trump is tweeting at Joe Biden like, I hope to see you in the general, sir. Like, all right, well, now we know who we probably shouldn't elect.
Yeah, and also, so the reason that he goes into here's what I would do if I were the Democrats is because he doesn't want to talk too much about what's being done right now, because although he's there to imply that there's something nefarious about it, he knows, as she knows, that these were rules that were set up under John Boehner. The process is going forth in pretty much the same way it was back in the 90s. They're doing some initial fact-finding interviews, of which we have, let's be honest, we have a lot of information about what's going on in those rooms regardless. The Republicans have even more because they have dozens of their members who are serving on those committees, and they're there for all of those interviews. They want you to forget that, but it's true. So you can't actually take issue with the process on specific substantive grounds. You can only talk vaguely in circles around the process.
Yeah.
And really fast on that, one of the things that I loved about this is we know that the Matt Gaetz, the brovasion of the rooms was a big stunt, that's all it was. But AOC pointed out one particular way that it was really a pathetic stunt. Ryan J. Riley had reported that Fox News reports that some Republican members, quote, asked to be arrested during that. And so she said there have been many aspects of the GOP's little flash mob that have relied on mountains of entitlement and privilege, but them asking the police to be arrested is just, well, let's just say my community would find it hard to understand why anyone would ask to be arrested. But we know why they want to, so that then he could come out and say, I was thrown in the slammer for just trying to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderfully said. So I decided next time I'm debating a Republican on TV, I'm going to flip it on them. So, if I were the Democrats, I would just surrender, they usually say, along the lines of what John was saying. I'm going to flip it on them. If I was the Republicans, I wouldn't support a criminal president. But I guess you went in a different direction. So I find that to be a little bit more egregious than some obscure process thing that you're complaining about that isn't even true, as Ana pointed out.
Just ask them if they're scared. Just that, like, are you scared? But say it like that. If I were a Republican, I'd be scared.
Okay, we got to get you on Cuomo now. But there is more of Ana's appearance. Here she is.
Chris, guess what? Jeff Toobin, okay, our colleague on the show previous, on Anderson's show, said, most of this stuff is hearsay based on top of hearsay. Okay, you know it. You're a lawyer.
This is not a trial. It's not a legal process.
Chris, you're a lawyer. Would you take hearsay upon hearsay?
When you have members of Trump's administration testifying against him, you have a US ambassador, Bill Taylor, under Trump's administration testifying that there was quid pro quo.
Right.
You have
it's hearsay
Donald
based
Trump's
on hearsay.
chief of
It's not
staff,
hearsay
Mick
based on hearsay in
Mulvaney,
every case.
specifically
You know that,
saying
Not in
there's
every
quid
case.
pro quo. We do quid pro quo all the time. I mean, you have members of his own administration saying it, and then
Chris,
you
you're
have
better than
Donald
this.
Trump
Hold on a second.
constantly
Dave, don't
intimidating
make it about me
individuals
being
who are
good or
coming
bad.
forward.
Chris, you know that you would not bring a case based on hearsay. You would not proceed forward with a case based on hearsay.
How is it hersay if Bill Taylor?
Are text messages hearsay?
Yeah,
Are
text messages are not
between
hearsay.
Bill Taylor and Gordon Sondland
had conversations.
Ana's 100% right there, and I found most of what Cuomo said there to be incredibly frustrating. But look, the Bill Taylor stuff is great, and it's not hearsay at all. It's literally, he said, it's not hearsay. But more importantly than that, Donald Trump put out the transcript of the call, and everything you need to know to be extremely concerned about whether crimes were committed was in there. It wasn't hearsay, it was, he printed it out and presented it to us.
Yeah, I just like how Ana's doing a bit of a better job than Chris is at that moment.
Well, she's the one debating, to be fair to Chris.
Chris is doing a great job. I'm not saying, thank you for having TYT people on. Love it, love it, love it.
Do more of that.
But also the other dude, I don't know who he is, but he's like, Chris, you're better than this. When Ana's talking, like as if to say,
yeah, that's right.
Oh, you're better than having Ana Kasparian on and almost a little sexist, like this woman tell you what you're doing.
No.
I didn't like that at all.
Francesca, I totally agree with you. I got the same vibe. Like, I won't even deign to talk to this woman, right?
Yeah.
And what does Chris, you're better than this mean? It means you should shut her up, right?
Yes.
Like, why are you allowing her to say things that are demonstrably true, right? So that hearsay talking point is from months ago when the whistleblower, it's just hearsay. Now, some of the things that the whistleblower had was direct evidence and some of it was hearsay. But to John's point, we're not talking about that anymore because we already have a rough transcript, and even that shows that he did do it. And then we have the text that Ana mentioned. None of this is hearsay. Then we have Taylor come in as a witness and say it was quid pro quo. That is not hearsay.
Add everything Rudy Giuliani said on Fox News.
That's not hearsay. None of it is hearsay. He's gone to an old talking point, and he's basically saying, how dare this liberal woman disagree with my old talking point and prove me wrong?
He didn't get the update. See, Republican talking points are like iOS updates, they're like software updates. You can't keep ignoring the update because then you don't get the new talking points.
And I've been frustrated about a lot of stuff as we've proceeded with this. But one thing is that we're still hearing from Trump primarily, but from others, attacks against the whistleblower. They really want to know who it is, what's the source and everything. But from my point of view, and I acknowledge we've got the text messages, we got Taylor's thing, all that contextual stuff. The whistleblower raised the concern that I heard crazy stuff on a phone call, you need to look into this. So we got the phone call. what do we care? What the whistleblower told us to look into it, so we're looking into it. We got it. It would be great for him to come and say, yeah, I was really concerned about the phone call, and you can literally look at it. It was really bad. But I don't get why we're still focusing so much on the whistleblower. We have primary source material that indicates a criminal quid pro quo.
I think that when you have a guest, and I mean, I get and I like that there are, sort of left and right debates on programs like Cuomo's. I think that's important, but when someone goes on to television, and I've like PBS is actually a good example. Like we always talk about, cable news, but like PBS and NPR are super guilty of doing these things too, which is both siding something. They'll have people on who continually lie.
Yeah.
They're lying about the facts. So then as the media, what do? I mean, it's the Kellyanne Conway syndrome. It's like, do we continually invite this perpetual liar back on or not? And I feel like at some point, we have to just let him go.
Yeah.
Just not put him on television anymore if you're gonna continue to lie.
Yeah, look, and so we get criticism. They say, why don't you have more conservative voices on? What am I gonna have a guy, look, you find me honest conservatives, and I do have them on. John Ziegler, don't agree with him at all. And we've had wonderful, hilarious shouting matches, right? But he's an honest conservative. He genuinely believes the things that he says, whether you agree or disagree. And I can name you a couple of others. In fact, Hilton from Fox News, honest conservative. I've had him on, and sometimes we actually wind up agreeing when we're having an honest conversation. But 90% of the people that go on cable news to defend Trump, or just even Republican talking points, are purposely dishonest. Right. So that we don't have them on, and the mainstream media goes, why don't you even it out by having some liars on too?
I obviously I agree. Like today on the Damage Report, I had an activist start a nonprofit around autism. I did not feel any sort of need to add on someone who feels like we should be funding autism research less. I don't know what that would have added. But obviously, I don't think that the network is requiring that sort of balance. Because they think that it gets you to the truth. They do it because it's an investment over a long period of time that has resulted in the right wing respecting CNN. No, it hasn't. It hasn't worked at all. So why are you doing it? It's a complete waste of time. They don't care about you. They hate you. They think that you're fake news.
Yeah, I understand. They have political pressure, they have economic pressure, they have media pressure, and a culture of groupthink, in my opinion. But again, look, I get that we have a self-interest here. We kidded around about it earlier, but you have to give Cuomo and CNN a lot of credit because it's a very rare show that bothers to have an actual progressive on.
That's true.
Against these guys. Normally it's one of those guys who blah, 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 and like a meek Democrat going, sorry, right?
Yeah.
So this is much more preferable to that, which is 98% of cable news.
Love you, Chris.
Yeah.
Love you, Chris.
It was fun. And annihilation is always fun.
That's hilarious. Well, you know what? I'm not the only one who's been on Cuomo. You've been on Cuomo several times as well.
Yeah, so in this clip, this is the prediction that started it all. Now, you saw me do it on the Young Turks before, but this is on CNN and national TV. And this is the thing that, if you remember, you see me catching John and Brett talking about this clip. And then that started a whole nother controversy, which was nothing but fun. But most importantly, the prediction that he doesn't finish his term. So get ready for it. Tick, 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 tick. Tick, 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 tick.
On yesterday's main show, Cenk apparently discovered that on the Damage Report, I had taken issue with one of his bold predictions on Chris Cuomo's show. Here is what he showed on yesterday's main show.
I'll predict right here for you, Chris. I think Donald Trump will leave office before his term is up. He'll be humiliated, embarrassed, and I know him. He's not gonna wanna lose, and he's gonna run for the hills.
You got that bet all day long.
Okay, let's get after it. Now, so look, Cenk has made some good predictions, and this is in good fun. I could not disagree more.
There's a little bromance between the two of them. You got that bet all day long, Janky, you. Oh, you stop. In the meantime, let's call him out on the damage.
But
I just got a Roku set. Did basically a little bit of channel surfing, and I was like, there we are.
Yeah.
There we are. And then I turned it on, and it was John and Brett on Damage Report making fun of me.
Oh no.
So you are so busted. I even took a picture of it, okay? And they're talking about my predictions. I got a new prediction for you, John Idarola.
I actually missed, what was the prediction?
Yeah, no, I'm playing. Okay, so So first, let's start with the premises for the prediction that Donald Trump will not be in office by the end of his term. Now, if you watch the Young Turks, you're not at all surprised by that. I've been saying that literally from day one. But I wanted to say it on CNN, and it was in the context of how disastrously Donald Trump is going with his polling numbers, et cetera. So, and as I told you from day one, there's a couple of reasons why I made that prediction. One, Donald Trump is not capable of managing himself out of a wet paper bag. So he's never failed to declare bankruptcy on anything that he's ever run, and it doesn't take that long. And so I'm actually quite shocked that he's lasted this long. So it's going to be an epic debacle, and it certainly has been an epic debacle in many ways. But part and parcel of that prediction was at some point the economy crashes because Trump will do such maniacal things that he can't help but crash the economy. So we're teetering on that edge now. His polling is anywhere between 36 to at most generous as 43%, averaging at about 40%. That is terrible numbers. Terrible numbers already. Under any normal circumstance, you would have no chance at re-election if you're an incumbent polling around 40%. Now, yes, we do have 14 months left. Now, when everybody, including the Trump administration, believes that we're going to hit a recession. If we hit that recession, which is again, we're on the precipice of, nobody's rooting for it, but it's a reality that even the Republicans acknowledge. Yesterday, we did a story about several Republican senators going, "Oh no, here comes the recession," right? Then Trump's going to dip into the 20s. And two set of things that are going to happen. And again, all of this I said from the very beginning, and it's coming to fruition, I believe, as we speak. Look, you've got his legal troubles to begin with, and he's a crook, lifelong criminal. I knew he'd continue to be a lifelong criminal and a con man. But when the economy crashes, that's when the donors run. And that's when the donors tell the Republicans, release the hounds. This guy's not gonna win anyway. He's gonna pull down the rest of the Republican senators and House members. And then there's the Republicans and their driving engine being the donors abandoning him when the market crashes. And they already got their tax cuts. And so, and again, go all the way back to the beginning. I said the one thing they're gonna do is tax cuts. And once they got the tax cuts, they don't need that schlep anymore, right? Or that schmuck anymore. And then the last part of it is Trump doesn't like being humiliated. You think he wants to go and lose 40 states? They're gonna get slaughtered in this next election. So again, you're gonna think I'm overconfident. Yeah. I've heard it 1,000 times before. So, and if you remember, I've been saying all along, he's not gonna get impeached, he's gonna resign. I said, he's gonna wake up, you're gonna wake up one morning and be like, Trump is gone. What do you mean he's gone? Yeah, this morning he resigned. And people are gonna be like, what? Right? So I'm never gonna be moved up. It's gonna be the last day in office. I'm like, tick, 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 tick.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up the tick, 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 tick. I want you to have an opportunity to jump in first. What do you think? Does he make it to election day? Does he run for re-election?
Oh, he runs for re-election, gets wiped out. And tries to stay on as long as he possibly can. Two reasons. One, he is addicted to being president. This is a guy who everyone his whole life has thought is a loser, liar, con man, sleazy, and basically he only fools a few people here and there. Like that's his whole career. And so now he's in a position of authority where people actually have to be nice to him. So he's never had anything like that before. So he's addicted to being the president. Number one. Number two is that if he leaves office early, he's going to get prosecuted. And that was basically like Bob Mueller has repeatedly said that. I would have done some other stuff here, but you know what? I can't indict the president. So
okay, but
not going to happen.
So Matt, those are two reasons I would turn around on you. Okay, so the weaker case is he's addicted to being powerful and president, but if you get humiliated in the elections, well, you've lost that power. Remember, he often will run and then go, oh, well, I would have won. I mean, I would have won. I would have done this, I would have done that, but I mean, I didn't want it anyway. Remember, he's a child.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't want it anyway.
Yeah.
Is such a classic child move. But the stronger case is, see, I got frustrated when I realized the Democrats were never going to take action against them, never going to hold them accountable. And I was like, Cenk, are you sure? I was doubting myself for a second there. It happens from time to time. Yes, that's right. And I had not calculated, which I should have, the depth of the weakness of the Democrats, how pathetic they are, that they wouldn't challenge him at all. But now get a load of this. Trump might resign because he thinks, well, I'm never gonna be prosecuted. Like if he was really worried that he was gonna go to prison afterwards, then he'd wanna hold on for dear life, as most fascists do. But he thinks, oh my God, they're never gonna prosecute me. Pelosi and these Democrats and these prosecutors are losers. They're gonna let me get away with everything. All right, then I'm out of here and I'll pretend I would've won.
I do agree with the not prosecuting. I think that Donald Trump could shoot one of Pelosi's colleagues dead, and I don't think that she would do anything about it, unfortunately. But I disagree with a lot. I know, it's a reference to his Fifth Avenue thing.
I know.
He started it, and he's the president. But I disagree with a lot of the rest of what you guys are saying. Look, I can't imagine him stepping down. I think that would be a humiliation. I have no doubt that he would spin it as, I was forced out by a coup, he's gonna talk about it for the rest of his life. But I think he's going to run, and I think it's going to be difficult for a number of different reasons. First of all, it depends on how we come out of this primary. If we have a good progressive, significantly easier. If we have Joe Biden, who knows what's gonna happen on election day. And so that definitely matters. But then also, we have the Electoral College, we have voter suppression, we have all of these things that are designed to make it more challenging and closer than it should be. So I don't think that we should get too excited about anything. Polls, the economy, I'm not convinced that if the economy tanks, it will hurt him, at least with his base. Maybe with independents, sure, and maybe that's enough for him to lose. In terms of him stepping out before the election though, so you mentioned the tick, 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 tick. So we had a bet at one point about whether he would make it to the midterms.
Yes.
Which I don't think I ever got paid for. But do you remember at one point, TYT, we set up a pool, the resignation impeachment pool. And we each signed up for a month.
Ooh, this was gonna sting.
So here's the thing, I have to tell you, your month came and went.
Oh, really?
Do you wanna know what month that was?
It's early.
It's to be fair, it's October 21st. 2017.
Okay.
It's a while ago.
So yeah, I hear you, and that is fair to bring up. I'm not a Republican, so I don't disagree
Although you
with your
didn't
facts.
pay, you didn't pay though.
That does make me more Republican. No, I don't. Look, I didn't know we had a physical bet, but if you look that up, find that, I'll definitely pay you.
I don't
hate
remember.
people
I don't
who
remember.
don't pay
It's
bets.
probably $5 anyway.
But I have acknowledged that I lost that bet to Anna. So look, I thought for sure that it would happen before the midterms. I was obviously wrong about that. And so, but if you watch the Young Turks a long time, you also know my timing is off and off. So it'll come true, but like way later than I realized, okay?
Well, actually, to that point, the way later, so every remaining TYT employee that signed up for a month, it's come and gone. Do you know the only person whose time hasn't come and gone yet is Bart in the control room. He signed up for August 9th, 2024. I think he might win this thing. I don't know.
No way.
I certainly
no
hope
way.
not. I do hope not.
Yeah, look, guys, we're just having fun.
Obviously.
And we'll see what happens. But here, I'll give you a couple quick, two statewide polls to give you a sense of how badly he's gonna get humiliated. So New Hampshire, which his campaign is now talking about how they're gonna win that state even though they lost it last time. Well, in January of 2017, so during inauguration, every new president has a bump up. Even though he lost New Hampshire, he had a positive approval rating in New Hampshire because Americans are open-hearted and they're like, let's give the guy a chance.
That's a honeymoon.
Yeah, honeymoon. And he was at just +1 in New Hampshire, much better in other states, but +1 in New Hampshire. You know what he's pulling out right now in New Hampshire? -17. Okay, now Wisconsin, he won Wisconsin and he got an even bigger bump. He barely won it. And then inauguration, he's at +6, nice and healthy, okay?
Yeah.
He's now at -14. -14 in Wisconsin. Oh, so Wisconsin's gone, Michigan's at -11, Iowa is at -11, Arizona's at -7, Pennsylvania's at -8, etc. And the economy hasn't even crashed yet. Tick, 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 tick.
Yeah,
tick,
well,
tick,
although,
tick, tick.
but there's a couple of things to think about though. One is that, as John was saying, you can't take anything for granted, especially in today's political environment. But two is that it matters a lot who the Democratic nominee is, because a lot of people in 2016 went and voted for Trump even though they didn't like him.
That's true.
And that's because the entirety of all conservative political operations isn't to get a majority to like them or to agree with them.
Yeah.
That's something that a lot of progressives haven't figured out. And again, I was there. I know how they think. They literally say to themselves, it doesn't matter if a majority of Americans agree with us. All that matters is if a majority of voters laid out where we want them. That's all that they care about.
No, Matt, that's a terrific point. And the only thing that I'll say, I don't even mind being overconfident here. The only thing that I'll give is a very important caveat is, of course it depends on who the Democrats pick to be their candidate. If they make the same exact mistake they did last time, nobody likes Donald Trump, but let's put up an establishment candidate that tells you big business is great, big media is great, politicians are great, Washington is great. Well, that's the only way you can lose to Donald Trump. Could they make that same mistake?
Yeah.
I
think if it's Biden, for a few different reasons, he still would have a better chance, especially because Donald Trump is less popular than he was back in 2016. But if it's Biden, there will be some voters who will not support him. I honestly think that no matter who they choose, even if they choose Bernie, my number one, there will be some percentage of voters who will not support a major party candidate. So you can't take anything for granted.
Well, I mean, look, Illinois, when Barack Obama ran for Senate the first time, Alan Keyes was his opponent. Alan Keyes is certifiable. He got 25% of the vote.
Yeah.
And there
this
you
guy
have
is
it.
a lunatic, literally crazy.
And I just want to make one point clear, because it was in the Cuomo clip. Right after you finished talking, they went to the other guy, I'm not familiar with his name, and he started talking about how he's not hoping for a recession. Cenk never once implied that he wanted a recession. They just keep saying that if you predict one, you're hoping for one, possibly causing one, and that is 100% disingenuous.
So that's Niger Ennis, but in the case of my prediction of Trump leaving office, I'm both predicting it and hoping for it. Not the recession, but Trump leaving office. And look, 25% of this country is certifiable. They'll vote for anyone. But I think Trump is gonna get to that, holding on to just that 25%. And I love that I found that clip on Roku, because today we're doing the show exclusively on Roku, Pluto, Zumo, and YouTube TV, our outlets, and tyt.com. If you're a member. So everybody check us out on Roku and Pluto, Zumo, and YouTube TV. All right, back on the Young Turks. So I love that we're doing a Thanksgiving special where we're pointing out Republican hypocrisy.
It's fun, it's my favorite.
Yeah, that's what we're really thankful for. They give us all this rich material.
No, but the hypocrisy never gets called out in mainstream media, right? So it's wonderful that we get the opportunity to talk about these things. And one of my favorite examples actually features Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell. There were old videos that surfaced of them during Bill Clinton's impeachment. And if you notice, the way that they spoke about impeachment during Bill Clinton's era is very different from how they speak about impeachment today when it comes to Donald Trump.
To which I say, of course it is. But what's awesome is two things. One, being able to see it with your own eyes. Like, oh my God, we should impeach for everything. I don't care. Two, we shouldn't impeach for anything. We shouldn't impeach for. You're gonna see it in a second. But also that they still don't realize we have you on tape.
Yeah.
So here it is.
The point I'm trying to make is you don't even have to be convicted of a crime to lose your job in this constitutional republic.
That's Senator Lindsey Graham back in the 1990s talking about impeachment in regard to Bill Clinton, obviously a Democrat. Now that Lindsey Graham is very different today as a sycophant for Donald Trump, but I want to give you some more context into what Lindsey Graham said back in the day. So let's take a look.
The point I'm trying to make is you don't even have to be convicted of a crime to lose your job in this constitutional republic. If this body determines that your conduct as a public official is clearly out of bounds in your role, because impeachment is not about punishment. Impeachment is about cleansing the office. Impeachment is about restoring honor and integrity to the office.
Cleansing the office, restoring honor and integrity. Oh, what happened, Lindsey? Well, you know what? We actually have an answer because he was confronted about it. But before we get to that, Cenk, thoughts?
No, I just love every part of that. Look, guys, this is why people hate politicians. Yes. And you never hear people on TV saying, because they're all friends with politicians. And the reporters at New York Times, et cetera, they need access. And it's not their job, to be fair to them, to say this. Although you could point out in an article that according to polling, Americans hate politicians. It's because of guys like Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell. And so Lindsey Graham, when it's a Democrat, I don't even need a crime. I don't like him. I find him dishonorable. So I'm just gonna impeach him for something that is perfectly consensual because I didn't like it. I don't need any standards for impeachment. Trump, he committed crime after crime after crime. I know, but I'm trying to convince him to invade Iran. So honor, I don't need that. Integrity, okay, I don't even care that he committed crimes. I mean, this hypocrisy, it's so obvious. It's so obvious.
It's so good and it's so delicious. I love pointing this kind of stuff out. Now, there obviously the topic of impeachment has come up several times before. This is the first time Democrats have finally decided to pursue a formal impeachment inquiry. But back in 2018, when the topic of impeachment came up again, there was an interview that Vice did with Lindsey Graham, and they confronted him about his previous statements. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
There's some comments you made back in 1999 that are back in the news today for some reason. Don't you think those words apply today?
I think they always apply, and finally somebody's listening. It took 20 years for somebody to figure out what I said in 1998. So welcome to the dance. Here's the deal. If Mueller finds some evidence of Trump colluding with the Russians where he knew or should have known, that would be probably it for me. Other stuff, not so much.
But you said in 1999 that the president doesn't even have to commit a crime. He even wagged his finger. Doesn't have to commit a crime. We want to restore honor and integrity. That's what we want to do, honor and integrity. Doesn't even have to commit a crime.
Yeah, well, now,
come on.
I mean, but you just saw him say on tape. I mean, if there was evidence of him colluding with the Russians, then that would, that presumably would get him an impeachment. Well, congrats, it's not the Russians, it's Ukraine. It's very clear, and Donald Trump has admitted it. He colluded with Ukraine to get dirt on his political opponent, Joe Biden. Period. You don't need quid pro quo, and Lindsey Graham didn't mention quid pro quo there. He didn't say, okay, if this or that. No, it's just, do you collude with a foreign government on interfering in our elections? That's exactly what Trump did in the case of Ukraine and the favor he asked to target Joe Biden. So even by Lindsey Graham's shifting standards, he should still vote for impeachment. But on the other hand, I'm a politician and I'm a slime ball, and I can't wait to invade Iran because I love wars. Where's my Czech military-industrial complex? Raytheon, I'm here for you, don't worry.
Shifty Lindsey. All right, so just so you guys really visualize the changing perspectives of Lindsey Graham, depending on who's president at the time. Let's take a look at Graham then versus now.
If you determine that he committed the crime of perjury, and you determine that he committed the crime of obstruction of justice, based on the precedent of the Senate, I think you'd have a hard time saying under the situation in this case that that's not a high crime. He doesn't have to say go lie for me to be a crime. You don't have to say let's obstruct justice for it to be a crime. You judge people on their conduct, not magic phrases. To impeach any president over a phone call like this would be insane.
But Lindsey Graham's not alone. There are others, including Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Before I move on to him, did you want to add anything else?
I'm just going through old tweets of Lindsey Graham, not about Bill Clinton, but about Donald Trump during the primary. If we nominate Trump, we will get destroyed and we will deserve it. Last night, if you were looking for competency, Donald Trump fell short. And then I got this great one about Putin. He says, just when you think it can't get worse, a leading American candidate for president praising Putin. So back when he was running against Donald Trump, you don't have to go back to the 1990s. He's like, even praising Putin was of deep concern to Lindsey Graham. Now he's like, oh, well, I mean, if he's working with Putin, that's great. When do we invade? Let's bomb. I'll take Venezuela. It doesn't have to be Iran. I'll take North Korea as long as we start a war. World's biggest hypocrite.
Honor and integrity. Now, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell also had some strong statements in regard to impeachment today versus impeachment back in the 1990s. So let's focus on what McConnell's been saying about impeachment today. It's laughable to think this is anywhere close to an impeachable offense. If this is the launching point for House Democrats' impeachment process, they've already overplayed their hand. Also, the Kentucky Republican made no mention of the transcript or impeachment inquiry on his social media accounts, while his office also stayed silent, having only issued a press release on the matter the day before the White House's records were released. Now, when it comes to Bill Clinton and the impeachment process back in the 1990s, things were very different for Mitch McConnell. According to Newsweek, in a transcript of McConnell's comments in a February 12, 1999 closed-door Clinton impeachment hearing, the GOP senator condemned Clinton for having chosen a path of lies and lawlessness in a desperate bid to stay in office. In fact, he was quoted as saying, "Time after time, the president had the opportunity to choose the noble and honorable path. Time after time, he chose the path of lies and lawlessness for the simple reason that he did not want to endanger his office on his hold on public office. The president would seek to win at any cost." It sounds a lot like Donald Trump. If it meant lying to the American people, if it meant lying to his cabinet, the name of the game was winning at any cost.
Washington Post fact checkers say that on as of August 5th, so we're now way past that, Donald Trump had told 2,019 falsehoods or misleading claims. So Mitch McConnell, who pretended to care, well, I mean, look, there's no law breaking or anything by Bill Clinton, but oh my God, he told a lie. He once told a lie about a consensual affair. I am so moved by that. I have to impeach, I don't have a choice. Donald Trump has told 12,000 lies while in office. Well, golly gee, I don't think lies make really much of a difference at all. I know what they're hanging their hat on. Oh, well, look, the Bill Clinton we dragged in front of a grand jury, in front of a proceeding where he had to swear, and so it was sworn testimony, etc. Donald Trump refused to cooperate with prosecutors, so he never had to do that, right?
Right, he was never under oath, yeah.
Yeah, so if that's the read you want to hang all of your things on, God bless, go forward. But every American knows, look, was Bill Clinton always honest? No, of course not. The one lie he told about Monica Lewinsky, you think that was his only lie? No, he told many, many lies. But if you're talking about being concerned and impeaching people based on lies, even the MAGA guys know Donald Trump has told way more lies than any politician ever, right? So they might not concede that, but they know he's told more lies than Bill Clinton, and they know he lies on a regular basis. So Mitch McConnell with the, oh my God. Whenever it's a Democrat, they always get the vapors.
Oh, always.
Right, they're like,
always.
Oh, I do declare, this is outrageous.
Remember the constant panic over Obama's executive orders?
Oh, yeah. Now they're like, no, of course you have to do executive orders.
Yep.
Well, obviously, how else would you run the government? Okay, so now I'm gonna give you one last one from Lindsey Graham. This is now after he got beat in the primaries, now he's trying to befriend Donald Trump. So there's Lindsey Graham who was like, hey, oh, Bill Clinton should be impeached on anything. I don't know, he walked on the wrong side of the road, right? Now he's like, no, you shouldn't do impeachment even if there's crimes. Okay, then there's Lindsey Graham who hated Donald Trump. Then there's Lindsey Graham who's now kissing his ass, right? So he goes to play golf with Donald Trump. This is now in the ass kissing period, right? So somebody asked him, how'd you do against Donald Trump? Now remember, by the way, Trump also cheats in golf. So Golf Magazine covered that way before he was president. He'll constantly just pick up balls and throw them. Like, right? He once picked up a ball that wasn't even on the green. Like, oh, that's obviously it. Anybody who knows Trump knows, and they'll say like, well, look, I like the guy, he's fun, but is he lying? Of course, he lies all the time, he cheats all the time. Anyway, so Lindsey Graham says about the golf outing, how bad did he beat me? I did better in the presidential race than today on the golf course.
Oh my
great
God.
Fun, great host.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's so sad.
I have to say, look, there are just countless downsides to this Trump presidency, but you got to take your wins where you can get them.
Yeah.
And one of the wins is how Donald Trump very effectively unmans these Republicans, especially the war hawks.
Yeah, you know that Donald Trump doxed Lindsey Graham. Literally put out his phone number. And everybody started calling him with death threats, the Trump supporters.
Beta.
So he had to get a new phone. After one of the meetings, after the meetings in the White House, Lindsey Graham said, "Oh, how good did it go? Well, I gave him my new phone number."
Oh my God.
Oh, that's so sad. That's wonderfully sad. Look, Mitch McConnell's the heart of darkness and the worst politician in the country, I would say, including Donald Trump, because he keeps corruption going. Trump's an idiot. He's into personal corruption. Mitch McConnell built the machine of corruption, systemic corruption, where the donors buy off all of our politicians. But when it comes to sniveling politicians, I think Lindsey Graham even has McConnell and Ted Cruz beat.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree.
He is the snivelingest of them all. That, of course, was awesome. So we love calling people out. But there's one person that's selling Young Turks that really loves calling people out. Now you're thinking, oh, it's got to be Ana. Now, wait a minute, maybe it's Cenk. Wrong, Ida Rodriguez.
Yeah, Ida brings the fire. I love when she's on our panels. And there was a story this year about Fox News getting salty over Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's name, right? And so what I love is that Ida Rodriguez clapped back at Fox News for how salty they got over that situation. And look, again, she always brings the fire. She's about to bring the fire in this next clip. Again, just pay close attention to what she's saying about the future for Fox News. We've been, for the most part, avoiding this story because it's so ridiculous. But today's headline in the New York Post put me over the top. They write, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez flips out over mocking her name. I'm like, no, she didn't flip out. She didn't flip out at all, and I'm about to explain that to you right now. So this all started when Laura Ingraham has a guest on her show, and they felt the need to mock the way that AOC pronounces her name. Take a look.
You've noticed that AOC, who's the star of the moment, she's the it girl, and I mean girl in a very mature way.
Yes, of course.
She is the star, and she's the juice of the whole party. So where the excitement is. But you notice that when she introduces herself, does she take on that Obama? Obama put on accents.
She does the Latina thing where she does her, Anastasio Ocasio-Cortez.
That sounds nice.
And then when I introduce myself, I say Giuseppe Egidio di Genova. And I assume she's gonna love that when I do that.
Can I just say that I love that the lower third says, a new low in journalism? Like, yep.
Absolutely.
Leave it to Laura Ingraham to give you a new low in journalism. But anyway, so they're having a conversation about how a Latina pronounces her name like a Latina, right? Correctly, exactly. So it was a ridiculous conversation. I didn't care, I ignored it. AOC did respond to it though, and I wanna give you her response. She says, if by the Latina thing, she means I actually do the work instead of just talk about it, then yeah, I'm doing the Latina thing. Unless of course she's talking about being multilingual, which we know isn't a Latina thing. It's a 21st century thing. So that was her first tweet. And then she brought up something that I actually hadn't noticed people doing, but apparently it happens all the time. She says, my last name is Ocasio-Cortez, full stop. That's my name. No, you can't say Cortez. I've never used that in my life. Cortez is referring to someone else. Even if they're trying to be rude plus wrong, my dad's last name was Ocasio anyway. His name was hyphenated too though. Okay, so, yeah, I mean, look, I get it. Some people will get thrown off by the hyphen, but she does have a hyphenated last name, Ocasio-Cortez. And she says, hey, I'm okay with people calling me AOC. In a subsequent tweet, she said the same thing. But look, that's it. That was her reaction. That was her reaction.
That's her flipping out?
That was her flipping out, according to the New York Post.
All right, so let me just flip out for her because first of all, Laura Ingraham, I can't understand what you're saying because your face isn't moving. And it's very hard to hear the words coming out of your mouth because your lips are having a hard time moving. But I will come for you because I can. I'm not being, first of all, in Latin American countries, you have both of your parents' last names. That's not you honoring your parents or paying tribute to your parents. That's just the way that it is. Legally, your name is, in Puerto Rico, they hyphenate. My name is Aida Margarita Rodriguez Paradas. That's my full name, and that is the name that they gave me, and that's my legal name in the Dominican Republic and in Puerto Rico. But the audacity of as Amanda Seal said, the caucasity of white people to think that it is a joke to ask someone to properly pronounce your name, which is so offensive to everyone. My name is Aida, and I have to tell people all the time, my name is not Ada, my name is not Adia. I let many people call me Ada for many years, because I didn't want to be uncomfortable and I didn't want to seem like the immigrant telling somebody else that I'm in America and they should be able to call me whatever they want. No, because when you go to Puerto Rico, nobody tells Charles, your name is Carlos now. You know what I mean? They say, hey, Charles, they have to pronounce your name the way that it is. That's respect. People put love and thought and a whole bunch into naming their children. The least you can do is have the respect to call somebody, what if I wanted to say Laura? Hey, no, Laura, your name isn't Laura, your name is Laura. Say it correctly. Say your name, Laura.
Laura, I would love for you to do that to Laura Ingraham, because her head would explode.
Laura, I like
She'd be
that.
like, Laura!
I know.
Like, just the whiteness would start oozing out of her ears.
So I have a, and this is a genuine question, because, I actually have a pretty good Spanish accent, because Armenian and Spanish has a similar accent. So I can say your name correctly. But I also, I always say Ida instead of Aida, because I just feel like, am I gonna pull the Pakistan thing, And I don't wanna seem ridiculous. I'm afraid of seeming ridiculous by putting the accent on there when, I don't know.
But that's fine, because you're calling me Aida. You know, you don't have to become, I can't stand when people do that when they pander to me. They're like, Aida, hablas español, and I'm like, you don't have to do all of that. It's okay. But I don't. But it's not Ada. And I for many years I grew up people calling me Ada because I didn't want to make people uncomfortable by correcting them and saying my name is Aida. But then when my grandmother got sick and she passed away, I wanted to honor her because I'm her namesake. Her name had never been Ada, and it's offensive. And the reality of it is that at some point, even when they do it with black people names, John Tavius, it's not funny, it's somebody's name. Their parents named them that, and it's a cultural thing. And if you think it's funny, I think the most blandest name on the planet is Lara. You know what I mean? It's bland. It's like eating that potato salad we don't want to eat because it ain't got no seasoning in it. Okay, how about if I did that? That's not cool, right? It's not cool for me to shame you about your name because per my perception and my limited view, I would say that's bland like potato salad, but that's also dishonoring somebody whose name is Laura. And I don't think it's cool to do that to you, bland Laura. So don't do that to Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah, I would also say just going even beyond the proper pronunciation, she's talking about her actual name.
Yes.
It's Ocasio-Cortez. That's her full last name. If you called her Cortez, it's like calling me Ng. Helen Ng, because my last name is H-O-N-G, and you just decided to drop the first two letters.
Right.
Helen Ng. That's not my name. It's Hong.
Well, also, I feel like conservatives have this weird reaction to anyone who wants to be referred to as in a certain way, right? Whether it's pronouns or it's the way the name is pronounced or it's the complete name that someone wants to be referred to as. They just, for some reason, get so offended and they get so uptight over a simple act of respecting someone and what their preference is.
Right.
So if someone tells me, no, I don't want to be referred to as Ida, I want to be referred to as something else, why would I find that offensive? Why would I have this full-blown conversation about it on the show?
With a clown who thought it was funny to let a white woman mock a person's name based on their cultural heritage and then went and mocked his own name because he's a clown. But the reason is because they want to erase us. They want us to be this bland, we are here and we're not going anywhere. And when I say we, I'm not just talking about the Alejandra Ocasio-Cortezes, the Keishas, the Shakiras, the Mohammeds are all here. So you better learn how to pronounce our names because we are here and we're not going anywhere.
All right, back on TYT. In this segment, all we're gonna do is attack Fox News. That's what we're thankful for.
It's fun, it's fun. Okay, so look, it's very difficult to come across a host on Fox News who tells the truth. One of those hosts was Shep Smith, but unfortunately, he made a decision to step down from a very lengthy career at Fox. And we're about to cover that in the next video you're about to watch, and it's just sad.
Sad is what I say, but you can judge for yourself.
There's a lot that Donald Trump has had to complain about on Fox News recently, almost all of it Shep Smith. And so today is actually a day of good news for Donald Trump. Shep Smith apparently is out. Here is his final sign off from his show.
The opportunities afforded this guy from small town Mississippi have been many. Fox News has allowed me to travel the country and the world, gathering the facts of the day for you. Together with my colleagues, we've written a first draft of history and endeavored to deliver it to you while speaking truth to power without fear or favor, in context and with perspective. So recently, I asked the company to allow me to leave Fox News. After requesting that I stay, they obliged. Under our agreement, I won't be reporting elsewhere, at least in the near future, but I will be able to see more of Gio and Lucia and our friends and family. Then we'll see what comes along. This is my last newscast here. Even in our currently polarized nation, it's my hope that the facts will win the day, that the truth will always matter, that journalism and journalists will thrive.
I share those same hopes, just don't have a lot of hope in those areas. So that was his final statement. Some of what he said about the negotiations, I guess theoretically could be true. We'll see in a few months how much actually ends up being true. And just a quick note, he talked about them writing the first draft of history. Shep Smith is a lot better than everyone else at that network, but man, some of those areas of that history would be pretty dark, pretty weird.
Yeah.
They viewed much of the 19th century through an odd lens. But anyway, he's gone, and so Donald Trump has gotten what he wanted. I mean, there's other people he doesn't like at the network, but Shep Smith was the one that was most regularly a thorn in his side.
Yeah, so look, Fox News didn't just write the first draft of history. In a lot of ways, they made history. So it's painful to talk about, but we've got to be honest with what happened. So people talk about them in the Trump era a lot. No, they've been toxic from day one. They were meant to be toxic. That was the whole point. And they were meant to lie about it. If they just represented a conservative opinion, it's a free country. And so we would disagree and we would fight, but it's fine. They pretended to be fair and balanced. They put news in the title to mislead you on purpose. And then the most damning thing that they ever did is the one that gets the least attention. In the 2000 election, when it was an absolute tie between Bush and Gore, they had hired Bush's cousin to be their vote counter. And Roger Ailes pulled off a great trick. And so, look, unlike Trump, Roger Ailes was very, very smart. And he had Bush's cousin say, yeah, Bush won the election. So they declared, and they know that the rest of the media is a bunch of weaklings and followers. So once Fox News came out in 2000 and said, George Bush has won the election, everybody else at the other networks panicked, and there's literally reporting from inside the networks that said, well, Fox called it, we gotta call it. And then later, when all the votes were counted, after the Supreme Court stopped the vote and the news agencies actually got the ballots, collectively they counted them, it turns out Al Gore had won the state of Florida. Under every counting measure there was, the whole state of Florida, Al Gore had won it. He was the actual president. He didn't just win the popular vote, he won the Electoral College. But Fox News robbed this country and of this world of him and put in a guy who started the Iraq war, crashed the economy, and set the world ablaze. Fox News did that. So you'll forgive me if I'm not moved by your first draft of history and how this toxic place has done great damage to the entire planet. Now, having said that, Shep is by far the best guy on Fox News, and what he had always just done a little a little pinprick, if you will, into their veil of lies. So from time to time, he would tell the truth. And he would, back when Roger Ailes was alive and running Fox News, Ailes would call him in. He'd tell him, look, you only get that once a year, right? In essence, right? That's the bottom line of it. And Ailes found Shep Smith, and Shep's been on there for 23 years. And if you're Shep and you went from nothing to a very successful, wealthy person, I can understand why you'd be loyal to a guy like Roger Ailes. On the other hand, Roger Ailes is a monster who treated people horrifically. So you could have your own personal loyalty, that's up to you, brother. But back when Ailes was alive, he'd allow the truth about once a year. Now he's not alive, he's not running Fox News, and Shep's saying it all the time. And now we got problems. And now all of a sudden, Shep is gone. So I have no idea if he's telling the truth when he says, I asked to leave. He sounded genuine there, but it's Fox News, you never know. But Shep's a truth teller usually on Fox News as much as he is allowed to. So maybe he did want to leave, but I don't know why.
I kind of feel like some of it was a little performative. Like the performance was stellar because I could look in his eyes and see one thing, and then there would be those one hook things that he would say that I could just like see him turn the blade in Trump's stomach. Like he would, those principles of honesty and truth and integrity and just kind of like talking around it. But I would have to say it has been thoroughly entertaining watching the GOP self-cannibalize because Trump is so toxic that even the toxic of the toxic are seen as like Mother Teresa in proximity to Trump.
That's true.
And it's just really interesting that what I want to see is what happens during the election, because there's a lot of people who obviously aren't going to come out and speak against Trump because they're afraid of him and they're afraid of what some of the more extreme base would do. But I think that it's going to tell a different story in the polls, much like it did when people didn't vote for him to begin with, and some of them voted for Hillary because they didn't want to see him.
So, excellent example of what you're talking about is Colonel Ralph Peters. I mean, the guy's nuts on foreign policy, nuts on 100 different things. But Trump was so toxic that Ralph Peters was like, no, I'm leaving Fox News. I can't stand this place. Like, really? I mean, look, sure, let's do all the terrible things that we normally do, et cetera. But this guy doesn't even believe in democracy, doesn't even believe in America. And so he left and he's now on CNN. So I don't agree with Ralph Peters on anything. But even that guy had a line and Trump crossed the line.
It's like that episode of Family Guy when they're like, bird is the word. And then after maybe like 5 minutes in, you're just like, okay, I get it. Like it was funny like the first 5-10 minutes, but now it's too much. That's Trump in this election.
100%.
Same thing with Shapoopy.
Yeah.
One point I want to make really fast. We didn't get into it yesterday. There wasn't enough time, but it was one of the reasons why you were talking about the possibility that the younger remaining Murdochs might turn them in a more moderate direction because of their business interests outside of Fox News, which is certainly a possibility. But I felt like I had seen the first draft of this a couple of weeks ago when Shep Smith was feuding with Tucker Carlson, and Shep was just calling it like he saw it. Tucker was bringing on guests to bash Shep Smith, and management saw that feud and said, Shep, if you don't stop, we're taking you off the air. And so I suspected if they have their straight news guys and their opinion guys, they know what their fans are coming for, and so they chose to side with Tucker. And I think what we're seeing here, what Trump wants out of Fox News and what they're creating now by getting rid of Shep Smith is there is this ever-present radicalization of media where people are pushing for more extreme versions of what they enjoyed previously. And what's important to note about this change to Fox is that Fox is not through this becoming more conservative. It's becoming more conspiratorial, more detached from reality. It's becoming more extreme, but not more extremely right. That's important.
Extremely
it's becoming
right-wing.
Right-wing, exactly. It is just more purified BS. It's what people want to hear. They want to see the Breitbart conspiracy theories. They want to see the stuff they can see on 4chan. They just want to see it with some good production values. And so that's what they're chasing, not better right-wing policy proposals.
So last thing on this is that, look, Shep could be lying, and why would he lie? Because a lot of times when you're leaving these companies, there is a lot of money on the line. And so whether it's an exit package or just being let out of your contract, if he's not let out of his contract, he can't go work somewhere else. So he could have a ton of financial incentive to make things look good to the outside and not be honest about it at all.
Yeah.
That's one possibility. The other possibility is that he's being genuine. Okay, if he is, then we'll have our answer soon. Because if Judge Napolitano or Chris Wallace exit next, it was all a lie, and they're firing and cleaning out everyone who isn't sufficiently conspiratorial, doesn't want to lie, etc.
I don't know how Napolitano's still there.
Yeah, Napolitano is deeply right wing. Chris Wallace is conservative. So John is right. It isn't about their politics. It's will you bow to the dear leader? Will you lie to the American people on a regular course? It doesn't matter what your politics is. It matters whether you agree to fascism or not. So if they fire or someone leaves that is in that same category of right wing on Fox News, but honest about Trump, then you have your answer. Fox News has weighed in on the side of fascism and Trump. So we'll see. It's not our decision to make, it's their decision to make, and you'll know who they are.
All right, look, even though Shep Smith did step down from Fox, at least you do have some truth tellers left, even though I disagree with them politically. Chris Wallace is still there. You have Judge Napolitano still there, so that's good news, right?
And in this case, we got Juan Williams. Now, you know Donald Trump Jr. wrote the book Triggered. He could have written it about the 5. Because when Juan Williams accused them of using Republican talking points, which by the way, is what they do every single day. They were like, oh, how dare you, dear sir? This is gonna be fun. Let's watch.
Recently, we shared a story involving the White House accidentally sending talking points that defended Donald Trump in the Ukraine call with the president, Ukrainian president, to Democrats. So Democrats weren't supposed to get those talking points. They did get those talking points. And then recently, Juan Williams was about to bring it up during a discussion about it on Fox. And just take a look at how the people around him reacted to it.
Accidentally, they didn't intend it, so I guess it was leaked. But I think, just listening here, I think, boy, those talking points, they've made the rounds because the reality is.
Wait, what does that mean? Whoa. What does that mean? Are you saying that I got talking points wrong? No, you got to answer. You got to answer to the accusation.
Are you telling me I was told what to say? No, I'm saying they're all around. But here's the problem.
You had a whole day to talk. You didn't have to. Let's get Katie in. At least she has something to say that's original.
Here we go. Asking a foreign government to investigate a political rival is illegal.
Oh.
It's illegal. Okay. It's a violation of the Constitution.
Did you get that from Media Matters, Juan?
And the Constitution.
What? Are you claiming that we're puppets for the Trump administration? Is that what you're claiming? Are you claiming that we're not doing our jobs right? Are you claiming that we're not fair and balanced? Is that what you're claiming? Is that what you're claiming? I'm gonna do that now. Every time Cenk is calling me out on something and I'm embarrassed, I'm just gonna interrupt you and pretend like I'm outraged.
My favorite part actually was, and first of all, I'm not sure that he's gesticulating that much. Gutfeldt was more like leaning back, like, but my favorite part was when he's like, yeah, see the lean back?
He doesn't like it.
Okay, yeah. No, my favorite part was when he said, unbelievable. Really? It's like literally the most believable thing there is that Fox News is parroting Trump talking points. If you noticed, the reason why they lost it is a very subtle thing that Juan Williams said there in the beginning when he said, you can tell the talking points are making their rounds if you listen here. So, or that's why.
I didn't catch that.
Yes. And
Juan.
Yeah, he might have reversed it. You'll see it on the tape if you rewind. Listening here, I see that they're making the rounds with the talking points. So that's why Jesse Waters and Greg Gutfeld were like, right? And like, all right. Look, it's fair for Gutfeld and Waters to say, no, I am a conservative and I happen to believe what Trump believes. And so I'm defending him because I believe in him. But if they're pretending that they're unbiased, you don't believe that, do you? That's crazy talk.
Fox News, people on Fox News parrot Donald Trump talking points so much that when they deviate from that script just a little bit, Donald Trump goes on Twitter, I can't believe it. I don't know what's wrong with Fox News. I don't like Fox News. Maybe I need to go to Norway and find new hosts. He's just a clown. Like, come on.
Yeah, and he upbraids them and they get upset and stuff. So look, that's point one. Point two is you could have a certain political perspective, but if you are looking at it from just instead of a policy point of view, just a political point of view, this is my boy and I'm gonna defend him right or wrong, well, that's being partisan and that's taking talking points. So we've been I would argue we've been really principled here, and I could make that argument, I think, pretty persuasively. We challenged Obama from the left all the time. So we were disciplined in being principled progressives, right? Not in being partisan and being, well, Obama wants to drill in the Gulf. I think drilling in the Gulf is great. That's what Fox News would do. Oh, I've always been in favor of drilling in the Gulf. Drill away, baby drill, right? No, we're like, that's a bad idea. We were right, he was wrong, right? When Obama did signature drone strikes, not knowing who they were killing, and then they wound up killing an American citizen, one on purpose, and then his son accidentally. That was quite a coincidence. We called him out on that. And we got a lot of heat from Democratic establishment and a lot of mainstream media who are like, oh yeah, what now, you just think that killing American citizens without due process is wrong? Yeah, I do. I don't care that Obama did it. I don't care that Eric Holder made up a new legal principle saying, due process doesn't necessarily mean going to the courts. Yes, it does. Read the Constitution. Wow. So we're principled in that sense. We've called out Bernie Sanders on some of his positions, Elizabeth Warren on some of her positions, et cetera. Whereas Fox News, the reason you guys are seen as partisan hacks who do talking points is that when Trump clearly breaks the law, you don't even entertain the idea like, wow, that's interesting. I mean, it is illegal to ask for a foreign government to give you assistance. I wonder if he did that when he said, look into Joe Biden. I don't even know what the other side is, honestly. Like, all they do is try to differ. Oh yeah, but Joe Biden did something wrong and Hunter Biden did it wrong. Like, that's why we call it talking points, because that was literally the talking points that the Trump White House accidentally sent to Democrats, because they're idiots. And then you see Greg Gutfeld say it on Fox News, and it has no real, like, he doesn't address the issue. I don't know what his defense is, right? But he's being partisan, as almost to be fair, not every host on Fox News, we'll get to that in a second, but as 90% of the hosts on Fox News are saying, that's why we think you're partisan hacks who do talking points. Bret Baier, supposedly a straight news anchor, the other day, he's like, well, the president didn't ask the Ukrainian leader to investigate Joe Biden. He said, just look into it. Really? That's your straight news anchor?
Yeah.
Preposterous. All right, back on TYT. So you know the segment we do when rich men cry. We're about to show you the origin of it.
Yes.
It involves Leon Cooperman. I also want to note that we're doing, again, a Thanksgiving special where we're thankful for billionaires crying.
No, but it's about time. It's about time. I absolutely love this story, and this story, again, led to a branded segment with an actual intro that we created. That's how strongly we felt about this story. Take a look.
The vilification of billionaires makes no sense to me. The world is a substantially better place because of Bill Gates, Michael Bloomberg, David Rubenstein, Bernie Marcus, Ken Langone. This is idiocy.
If you have been waiting for the moment where you get to watch rich men cry, today is your lucky day. What you just saw there was Wall Street billionaire Leon Cooperman, and he is about to have an actual emotional breakdown over the very thought of having to choose between Donald Trump or Elizabeth Warren in the general election. Watch.
I am not in favor of all this impeachment inquiry. I want the American people to decide in November of 2020 what the future should be.
I think, I think it's kind of obvious people can not only see the emotion on your face, but hear it in your voice when you talk about this, Lee. Why?
I care. That's it.
I mean, what?
You've done this show for many years. Have you teared up on air ever?
Yeah, I've cried.
Was it about something like that?
I mean,
the prospect of your taxes going up marginally?
I had a moment when Trump was elected. People like to bring that up a lot.
But not even for that. But there have been some stories.
He is a very, very successful billionaire. There are people sleeping on the streets right now as we speak. Children, there are children, American children sleeping on the streets because of the insane inequality we have in the greatest country in the world, right? In the one of the richest countries in the world. He's crying because he's worried about Elizabeth Warren. And by the way, this came after a 20-minute rant on Warren, okay? Let me give you some more details. The Omega Advisors CEO, that's who he is, has previously declared that a Warren presidency would crash the stock market by 25%. That's what he's crying about. And said they won't open the stock market if Elizabeth Warren is the next president.
Wouldn't that hurt it worse? Don't you have to do the like, don't you have to do that or else there's no like, you have to trade papers? I watched that one movie in the 80s. That's all I know about trading stocks. But I think you have to do that.
Oh God, I have more details on this. So on CNBC's Fast Money halftime report, Cooperman continued to rail against Warren, including a curiously worded walk back of his previous comments that ended up comparing a Warren presidency with the attacks of 9/11. I mean, how detached from reality do you need to be? You're talking about one of the most privileged people on the planet, not just the United States, on the planet. And he's crying on national television at the thought of having to pay a wealth tax. That was one of the things he went on a rant about, okay?
Just imagine this guy. I don't know when he said that. He's like getting ready to go on CNBC and he hears the news from a few weeks ago that like Trump compared like his impeachment to a lynching. He's like, I got this. Warren, 9/11. What are you talking? Let's say Warren became president and let's say she passed her wealth tax. He would be a billionaire after.
He would still be
for
a
the
billionaire.
rest of his life, which probably won't be too long, but for the rest of it, he'll be a billionaire and his kids will be fabulously wealthy. It doesn't matter if they're the dumbest kids in the world. It takes like 3 generations of dumb kids to lose $1 billion.
Can we also just address the fact that everyone is incredibly dismissive?
Sorry.
Incredibly dismissive of Bernie Sanders. Like Bernie Sanders is to the left of Warren, but he's not worried about Bernie Sanders because he's already determined in his mind Sanders has no shot. Like this is going to be an election between Trump and Warren, right? Now Trump in one part of that interview has been great when it comes to the economy, right? Because if you look at the stock market, it has been doing well under Trump. So he feels like internally conflicted because now there's this impeachment investigation, which he doesn't agree with. And there is some likelihood that Trump wouldn't get reelected. You'd have like a Warren presidency, and he's panicking about that because he'd have to pay more in taxes and still be a billionaire.
Yeah, well, the reason he's talking about her and not about Bernie Sanders is because for like the first 7 months of this year, everyone was like, hey everybody, don't do what we did in 2016 where we all freak out if somebody moves in the polls and we forget that we've still got a long way to go. Don't do that. And then Warren started to go up and literally everyone was like, what? And everyone's like, there's nobody else anymore. Joe Biden, he's been home for a couple months. He's not running anymore. It's just Warren. Even Buttigieg is like, oh yeah, it's me and Warren. Nobody else is running.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Calm down. Yeah, she went up in the polls, okay? We got a long way to go.
We have a
so
year.
long.
Yes, exactly. I want to watch the video of him crying again.
Okay.
I know, that's like a little bit of a curveball, sorry guys, but like, just keep in mind, he is a multi-billionaire, okay? He is not sleeping on the streets. He's not worried about providing food for his family. He's not struggling. This is a man who's very privileged. And here he is crying at the thought of getting taxed a little more.
I am not in favor of all this impeachment inquiry. I want the American people to decide in November of 2020 what the future should be.
I think, I think it's kind of obvious people can not only see the emotion on your face, but hear it in your voice when you talk about this, Lee. Why?
I care. That's it.
His lower lip quivers. His lower lip quivered on national television.
About the prospect that Trump might get impeached. He's crying on TV. Like,
I want the American people to decide. Please save my taxes.
That was Nancy Pelosi's stance up until like a month ago, and all those remaining few centrist Democrats and those who only turned it like at the last possible second. Remember that guy on TV? That sort of people is thinking, no, it should be the people. Constitution be damned. You commit crimes, it doesn't matter. We have a popularity contest in a year.
Pobrecito.
Back on TYT's Thanksgiving Spectacular. And what's Thanksgiving about? It's about families, guys.
Oh,
and
is it?
so, yeah, and what better way to talk about families than the McCain family?
Yeah.
And how they are the victims, of course.
Well, I mean, Meghan McCain does love to talk about family. She talks about her father all the time, which I get, but she makes everything about her father, which makes sense when you consider this next video we're about to show you. It has to do with legacy admissions. Now, while the right wing loves to go after affirmative action and say that it's wrong, they usually have no issue with legacy admissions, which makes it easier for kids to get into school simply because their rich mama or papa went there. Take a look.
Right now, people are criticizing Meghan McCain for, I guess you could say, playing the victim in a conversation about legacy admissions programs at big universities. Watch this.
As legacy admissions, which means if your parents went to Brown or Harvard or UP, you can go. But it's interesting because the idea of legacy admissions is racist in nature, and I'll tell you why. It started in the 20s to keep out upwardly mobile immigrants who had started pushing for admission to elite schools.
Yeah.
And I think that is a very, very bad system. Legacy. Why should your kid get in because you got in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the only thing I will say
That's
is
not
when
fair.
it comes to
I didn't have any. I was the first person in my whole family to go to college.
In military academies, my family goes back generations at the Naval Academy, and that's service to your country. So I would push back in that part of it because my grandfather, great grandfather, my brothers, they all served their country.
Yeah, but if you don't have the grades, why should you?
They did have the grades. My brother did, but I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of the fact that my family's legacy is at the Naval Academy. My father's buried there.
I'm not talking about your family. I'm talking about
legacy.
I'm talking about the policy of where legacy admissions came from.
I'm very proud of my family's legacy at the Naval Academy.
And Jews probably out of the colleges. What?
Give me the confidence of a mediocre, failed daughter like Meghan McCain, and I could literally run the world, dude.
Yeah.
She's so stupid.
And as someone pointed out on Twitter, one could say she got like legacy admitted to The View.
I know you're gonna say some stuff about John McCain, and I know I can't say some stuff about John McCain on this show because you guys are too polite. But first of all, she doesn't understand what legacy admissions means. Right. She thinks it's just legacy, like my family has a legacy.
That's not what it means, yeah.
Yeah, secondly, actually, you know what? I'll wait for you to drop some statistics about the legacy that she was referencing.
Yeah, so it's true. John McCain's grandfather and father went to the Naval Academy, and they were actually very accomplished admirals in the United States Navy. So John McCain was admitted into the Naval Academy partly based on legacy admissions, and we don't know if he would have made it on his own. But to be fair, after being admitted, there was a class of 899, and he finished 894th. So basically, he started from the bottom and kind of stayed there. So if ever there was a good case for why you shouldn't have legacy admissions, it's John McCain. Right. He was admitted because of his dad and grandfather, and he was at the bottom of his class.
I will not stand for you just disparaging the good name of a real communist revolutionary like John McCain, who dropped 6 imperialist planes, 6 of them. And the only reason why they kept letting him fly, despite the fact that he just simply did not know how to fly, because he kept dropping planes over and over again, was because of the legacy thing that you were mentioning. He was the son of an admiral. The only legacy that John McCain has left on this planet is the legacy of a racist douchebag, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, who got captured by the People's Liberation of North Vietnam, the Honorable Revolutionary Forces of North Vietnam. Where Ho Chi Minh did nothing wrong on his way to bomb a freaking light bulb factory, okay? And then he was there for years, cheated on his wife as soon as he got back, his handicapped wife, and literally everything I'm saying is facts. Just look it up. And then he was given an opportunity to be a senator in Arizona for like 700 years, because apparently the only qualification you need is like, oh, okay, you're just like bad at flying planes. It's fine. Go ahead. You're a war hero now. You cheated on your wife. It's cool. And what did he do with that? What did he do in that time? What did he do during the time that he was a senator? You know what he did. One of the worst financial crimes of all time. One of the grossest things anyone's ever done. Yeah. And he spent his other time vetoing stuff like boycotting apartheid South Africa. You know, just a great dude. I love reasonable mavericks like John McCain. Oh, also, he is the reason why we have Sarah Palin and the Tea Party, and some could make the argument a person like Donald Trump in a position of power in American politics. So thank you, John McCain. A true revolutionary accelerating the destruction of the United States of America.
Your delivery is like, it's a lot for me to like just keep a straight face for. But I don't think I've ever seen anybody be that honest. Yeah. On this subject.
Yeah, so let me just real quick go through what Haas was alluding to, and then upsides and downsides, and then what do we think about legacy, right? So I thought he dropped 3 planes, not 6, but it might be the 6 bankruptcies of Trump that you're thinking about. But you guys can all look it up as well. He did keep crashing planes. He took too much risk, and then maybe he didn't study enough. And yes, all the things that he's referring to, voting, against Martin Luther King Day in Arizona, et cetera. You can look all that stuff up too. To be fair, the one part that he did do, where he was a hero on, was when he was captured. They were going to release him because his dad was an admiral, and they were going to use that for propaganda, and he refused to be released, and he stayed with his fellow soldiers there for years and years. So that is
he also gave away positions of like U.S. forces. He did give away positions under torture, even though he advocated against torture. But apparently, it was effective when the Viet Cong did.
No. Look, if you get tortured, I'm not going to hold you accountable for anything you do under torture. No way, right? And he did. He did. Well, he was the last vote, of course, to protect Obamacare. So that's good too.
Oh, get out of here, dude.
He was.
I know, but he was also. He had the opportunity to make sure that never even reached a position where he would vote on it. And at that time, he was like, "Well, let's hear this out." Like it's
and he did hear it out, and then he voted no.
He turned around and he voted for the tax cuts that would effectively be the skinny repeal that they were pushing for. You know why? Because he wanted his dumb daughter to have all of that money, that all of that intergenerational wealth that he got by marrying a person he cheated on his handicapped wife with. So John
McCain, why you keep bringing up
his cheating
on his wife. Like, what does that have to do with the war or anything like that?
I'm just
or legacy.
Yeah, it's part of his legacy. It's a part of his legacy, and I think it's important to understand the character of John McCain, a racist, awful human being.
I really want to talk about legacy admissions in colleges.
Yes.
But this is great.
I hate Meghan McCain so much. That's why, I love bringing this sort of stuff up, because she literally banks on the fact that her father was this awful person who skirted by and everyone respects because he was media friendly, and now she has a job on The View exclusively for that reason. Now, it's kind of interesting that someone like myself is talking about this, given the fact that I'm sitting here because I work for my uncle's company, right? Well, there's a little difference between, I'm just saying, this is something that I know that a bunch of people, a bunch of reactionaries in the comment section are gonna be like, oh my God,
you're disclosing.
Look at how hypocritical Hassan is talking about nepotism. The system that I advocate for, if implemented, we would no longer have issues with nepotism in that regard. Yeah. You don't hate nepotism, you hate capitalism.
Yeah, so a couple of things there. Look, I'm not defending John McCain. I'm giving you his full record. He had a couple of good things that he did, and he did have all the things that Haas is talking about. So that's the full record, and I know it makes a lot of people uncomfortable to hear that, but that is the reality of it. And my number one problem with John McCain is one we haven't even mentioned, which was that he voted for every war that he's ever seen, wanted to go to war with Iran, all of that, the Iraq war, disaster. Iran war would have been even worse if we listened to John McCain.
Bomb Iran.
That's right. But he did, a couple of half decent moments where he stood up for Obama and said he's not Muslim, etc. It's a really low bar, right? But other Republicans weren't willing to do that. So that's the full picture. But back to the legacy admissions. It does go towards the point that we're all making here, which is that legacy admissions don't make sense. I want my kids to go to the same schools, but that's unfair. It's an unfair advantage for them to have if you're poor in West Virginia or Kentucky or the Bronx or wherever you are, and you worked up and you didn't have the advantages my kids had, well, then you earned it even more, not less. That makes no sense.
We don't talk about it enough. Legacy admissions are the original affirmative action. They just are, because
Yes.
like when you think about like the college application process, you're talking about, you got to get those letters of recommendations, you got to do, your extracurriculars, you got to list all of this stuff, a personal essay, your scores, all of that. Legacy admits they skip all of that and still account for almost 30% at some of these Ivy League programs. And the only original people who could go to these universities were like wealthy white men. And so they are descendants.
That's it perpetuates that originally racist system by continuing to only admit those people that had the spots in the first place.
There's empirical evidence on this, 40% higher chances if you're a legacy admission in getting into these top 30 institutions in America right now.
Right, and we can all agree that there's no way Meghan McCain would be on The View if her last name wasn't McCain. All right, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Have you had your turducken yet? Okay. So, someone who got schooled is Ben Shapiro.
No, this is one of the best stories that we've ever had the opportunity to cover. He went on the BBC, and the original video was 22 minutes, okay? You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world. That's an actual thing. No, but seriously, we can only show you a small portion of it, which is about 10 minutes. It's just so good because Shapiro gets called out on something, and then he goes ahead and claims that the person interviewing him has a political affiliation that's biased, okay? Take a look. Conservative whiz kid Ben Shapiro was recently on the BBC, and he was getting interviewed by a conservative host on the BBC. I think that's an important bit of information to give you context into how disastrously this went for Ben Shapiro, who is also conservative. Now, without further ado, let's take a look at how this interview went down.
Some of the ideas that are popular in your side of politics would seem to take us back to the Dark Ages, Georgia, new abortion laws, which you are much in favor of, that a woman who miscarries could get 30 years. A Georgian woman who travels to another state for an abortion procedure could get 10 years. These are extreme hard policies.
Well, okay, a couple of things. One, I'm not sure. I mean, frankly, I don't know whether are you an objective journalist or are you an opinion journalist?
I'm a journalist that asks questions.
Okay, so you're a supposedly objective journalist calling policies with which you disagree barbaric and suggesting only one side of the political aisle has ideas. So I just want to point out that I wish you would at least be honest in your own biases.
Mr. Shapiro, I know that broadcasting in America is now so polarized that on one program you only have the left and another one you just have the right. My job is to question those who have strong views and put an alternative to them. If you were an anti-abortion person, I would be putting pro-abortion questions to you. But you are
really would you call the pro-choice position?
So why don't you just answer my question,
sir? I'm happy to answer your question. Please answer this one. Would you suggest that a late-term abortion is brutal?
I'm not taking a view
on
this issue. I'm asking you the questions.
Sir, you just suggested the pro-life position is inherently brutal and terrible, so I'm asking you, as an objective journalist, would you ask the same question to a pro-choice advocate by calling their position brutal and horrible?
What I'm asking you is that why is it that a bill banning abortions after a woman has been pregnant for 6 weeks is not a return to the Dark Ages? What's your answer?
My answer is something called science. Human life exists at conception. It ought to be protected.
Okay. It almost looks like he got triggered there.
He totally did.
Yeah.
Throughout the interview, and you're gonna see more video of that in just a minute.
Yeah, and at the end, it's fun. He walks out, okay? So we'll
no,
get
he doesn't. Whoa. He doesn't. He's just like, it's over. It's over. Please cut. Like, that's the best part of the whole thing is that he can't walk out. He just sort of stands there and waits. He's waiting for them to. And guys, have you ever heard a wedgie like speak? Because like Ben Shapiro sounds like if a wedgie were like anthropomorphized and came to life, that's Ben Shapiro, and also like someone who's like empathy balls haven't dropped yet, you know, just sort of like the high. Yeah, that's Ben Shapiro.
Okay, so he says, I'm happy to answer your questions, but doesn't seem happy to be answering his questions. In fact, so much so that he walks out at the end. But on the issue of abortion, it is certainly returning to old times. And a lot of people do believe that it is Dark Ages. Mm-hmm. And so But to me, the most relevant part of this first part is Shapiro crying about how you have to give an unfair advantage to my position by calling it even. No, he doesn't. He's asking you questions, and your job in that context is to answer them. And so if you don't frame things in a way that is pleasing to conservatives, they will definitely cry. That's their number one go-to trick here.
So I read an op-ed in the Washington Examiner, which is a right-wing outlet. And the title of the op-ed was "In Defense of This Interview," right? Mm-hmm. And the point of view was, look, the interview style from some of the hosts from BBC is very different from what you would expect from American news anchors, because their whole point is to stay calm and kind of get under your skin. Mm-hmm. And it appears that's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. And what he was asking was, I think, okay to ask, because again, you're having someone, like your job as a journalist or as a news host isn't to just simply ask simple questions and play patty cakes with the person you're having the interview with. It's to ask the hard questions. And so if you juxtapose the way he interviewed Ben Shapiro to the way that he's interviewed others from the left, you would see very similar treatment, which is why this host, what was his name again?
Andrew Neil.
Yeah, Andrew Neil. He's not coming from a liberal perspective. In fact, if you look at his personal politics, he is not liberal at all. He's just coming at it from the contrarian perspective, which I think makes the interview way more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's the publisher of a conservative outlet, so he's definitely conservative.
Yeah. Rupert Murdoch, the God King of Republican and far right-wing political media in the world. He owns News Corporation, which was the parent company of Fox for a while. He personally made Andrew Neil the editor for one of his top newspapers in the 90s. At that same time, when he was an editor, by the way, he started smearing, at the time he was an editor, he allowed these smears saying that HIV didn't cause AIDS to be printed in his magazine. Wow. He was one of the Tories, the conservatives in England, who, when Tony Blair and George W. Bush were getting ready for the war in Iraq, he said that, yeah, the lead up to the war in Iraq was very well executed. It was well done, it was masterful. Andrew Neil.
That's the guy that Ben Shapiro just called a liberal because he asked him a tough question.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is unacceptable. Ben demands that you ask him softball questions, which the American media complies with, and then calls them, all sorts of positive words. The New York Times can't stop raving about Ben Shapiro. Oh my God, it's a right winger who talks in complete sentences.
The cool kid's philosopher is what they'll say.
Right.
Philosopher, please.
So we're just getting started. We have more video from this interview. Let's take a look.
To my question to you, you purport to be an objective journalist. BBC purports to be an objective down the middle network. It obviously is not, it never has been, and you as a journalist are proceeding to call one side of the political aisle ignorant, barbaric, and sending us back to the dark ages. Why don't you just say that you're on the left? Is this so hard for you? Why can't you just be honest?
Mr.
Seriously,
Shapiro,
it's a serious question.
Mr. Shapiro, if you only knew how ridiculous that statement is, you wouldn't have said it. So let's move on. Would you vote for Mr.
I think it's pretty evident from your own questions exactly what you are, sir.
Trump?
Oh, it's so good. So good.
I literally love in that he tries to say, I'm just repeating to you exactly what you said, sir. Obviously, you're a leftist. I just told you, I just explained. This guy was in the tank for Tony Blair. He was considered to be a Thatcherite in the right-wing press. He's currently on the board of The Spectator, which is considered to be one of Britain's right-leaning publications.
If you only knew how me and Mrs. Thatcher got at it when she was in power.
Yeah.
Well, if you only knew how I have a shrine to Mrs. Thatcher, you wouldn't have said that. Sorry, I don't really know what accent I'm going there.
Yeah, I think you were Scottish, and I'm not sure he is.
I think he's a little Scottish in there.
No, he's got a little bit of that Midlands
I hear it too. I think, look, it's funny because Ben Shapiro is always painted as this genius of debate, right? And it happens over and over again because in America, it's easy to pull the wool over people's eyes by claiming like, well, look at this person. He speaks quickly. He speaks with conviction, so he knows what he's talking about. He destroyed in that debate. But if you ever listen to the substance of what he's saying, he either doesn't make sense or he says things that just are demonstrably untrue, like arguing that money in politics doesn't corrupt politicians. That is absurd. That was one of the claims that he made during his debate with Cenk. But one thing that I think a master debate, someone who's really good at debate.
They frown upon that, Ana.
Yeah, Ben's not a fan of that, at least not until marriage. You
know exactly who you're about to talk to, right? So you need to obsessively study the person you're gonna debate, obsessively study the person that you're about to have an interview with, because you wanna know where they're coming from. And if he had known, if he had taken a second to figure out who this host is and what his politics are, then he wouldn't have made that stupid claim that this, that this guy is somehow a leftist.
Well, this is the thing about this interview that I love is that you can see when he's being introduced, he's like, Ben Shapiro has, 5 million followers, whatever. He's listing all his stats, and Shapiro's got his little like wedgie face, he's like, they love me, and he's getting all excited, right? And then when he starts to ask him, like, hey, do you support this really retrograde abortion bill? Like, tell me about that. He's like, he gets really upset that suddenly what he thought was gonna be a fawning book review, like just tell me about your thoughts on Western civilization, like suddenly turns into a little bit of pushback. Right. He freaks out and he's like, crap, I didn't actually do any research about this guy who's interviewing me. I'm totally unprepared, which actually was very revealing that in fact, your God is really quite stupid and unprepared. I saw him debate you, Cenk, at Politicon, and I think in other instances, he did an okay job because he had prepared. But off the cuff, he actually doesn't have anything prepared. He's just there to dunk on libs. And
there's a little bit of a Sarah Palin-esque quality to it, because Sarah Palin, when she was going to debate Joe Biden, knew that she couldn't answer the question, so she prepared ahead of time talking points on issues. And Ben does that. So if you're gonna ask about healthcare or you're gonna ask about different issues, he goes to a standard attack talking points. And now again, as Ana pointed out, they don't have to make sense. Isn't it true that when politicians take millions of dollars for that they never do favors for the people that they took the millions of dollars from? They're like, no, that's not remotely true. That's a preposterous statement, right? But he's prepared it. He doesn't have a plan B, and so he gets exposed here. But I actually think this is way more damning of the American media than it is of Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, 100%.
So when he cries the first time, that usually works. That's a bullying tactic. And he's like, I don't get it. When I do this to the New York Times, they write fawning pieces about me.
I thought this was gonna be like a Dave Rubin interview. I thought we were just gonna talk about ideas. What happened?
Like when he says to Dave Rubin asks him, you'd bake me a cake, right? Even though I'm gay. And he's like, no, I wouldn't. Dave goes, yes, sir, absolutely, sir, right? And that's what he's used to. So when they have actual journalists in the UK, he's like, I did not see this coming. Yeah, that never gets old. That's always fun. What else is fun is Emma Vigeland going and talking to Trump supporters. By the way, speaking of being thankful.
Not fun for her, but fun for us to watch.
Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm thankful to you guys for allowing us to have a reporting team so we can bring you awesome clips like this. So this was during the Democratic debate in Miami, but she talked to Trump supporters.
She talked to Trump supporters. This was one of the more devastating Trump supporter interviews because of look, there's always a lack of reason and logic in these types of interviews, but just like the unwillingness to accept facts as like the basis of her opinions, it drove me nuts. So take a look.
No matter where I go, Trump supporters are always around me. I'm some sort of magnet, so I gotta go talk to them. I might as well. I wanna ask them what they think socialism is. Do they have any idea? I'm quite curious. Do you think Joe Biden is a socialist?
Yes.
How would you define socialism?
I define socialism when you bring down your own country, your own race, because he's not black. And
what does that mean? Bringing him down to black people? Is that what you're saying?
No. He's saying that the white people, he doesn't look at himself in the mirror.
So
that's what I look at. Hey, you talk about the white people and look at you.
Well, he actually.
You know I don't like him? I'll tell you exactly why I don't like him. He's got a big ego. He thinks he's better than God.
Trump said he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and get away with it.
No, I don't think so.
He did say that.
No, he didn't. No.
It's on tape.
No, I don't believe it. No, that's fake.
I swear to God, you can watch it.
Fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news.
Okay, do you want to watch the video?
They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
Any of the Democrats, do any of them appeal to you?
Liars. All liars. The Pinocchio keeps growing.
Okay.
And then you yourself won't have a country. You yourself won't have a country. Keep believing all these liars, and you yourself will be out of your country. Socialism doesn't work wherever it goes.
But why is Joe Biden a socialist?
Why is Joe Biden a socialist? Because it's all about the money. I mean,
but socialism is about.
You know, the thing is that Joe Biden is all about the money. It's all about the power, the money. That's why.
Trump's a billionaire.
Yes, and so is Joe Biden.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Trump went bankrupt 4 times.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. And that's business.
But he did.
How many people? Okay, you go bankrupt. How many people don't start all over again after a bankruptcy?
Well, he's not a great businessman if he went bankrupt 4 times.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Great businessman. What do you think? Where all those jobs come from?
Not from him.
Yes, from him.
It's been documented that he's hired undocumented immigrants.
Fake. Hey, use your head. It's fake. Everything that they're feeding you as a white woman that you are is fake. Is fake. But when if communism comes here, you will know it.
I don't know what me being white has to do with it. I don't know what me being white has to do with it.
Yeah, you being white because you haven't experienced anything that's been bad. That's what I'm saying. You have not experienced anything in your life that is bad. Okay?
I know.
It's not about the white collar or anything. You're white and you haven't experienced it.
Thank you so much.
I'm a little biased, but I kind of think this special show was pretty awesome. And we did it because we're thankful for you guys, our members, tyt.com/join to become a member. And if you do, speaking of thankful, we actually have a different Thanksgiving special where we actually tell you what we're thankful for in life. And it's not just about you guys, I gotta be honest, okay? But we all talk about about our personal lives and what we're thankful for. That's just for the members. It's under special coverage, okay? So tyt.com/join to become a member and get that special show just for the members. But thank you for watching this. We really appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk and I'll see you soon.